All right. So I guess I'd love to just start off with you guys giving a little bit more of an intro about yourself and also giving a couple sentences on the aha moment of what got you into your role today.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susannah. I'm the product lead for the IBC team. So I work with Aditya and Serdar out there as well. So I first got interested in IBC and the Cosmos ecosystem generally because I have a background in manufacturing. And for me, it was very intuitive that you can think of blockchains much like factories. They're building blocks. And you never just have a single factory building everything in the world. So intuitively, it made a lot of sense to me that each factory is going to be different. And then how do you connect all of these unique blockchains, essentially factories? And that's when I looked more into IBC and realized that you can only have these custom block building factories with a component that enables them to seamlessly interact with each other. So yeah, it really made sense to me. And yeah, then I just wanted to work on IBC.
Hi, I'm Noam. I was the developer relations lead at the Interchain Foundation starting around 2021. Then I joined Binary Builders in 2023 as the lead for, well, now I'm the lead for the business development team. We essentially do something called the Builders Program, which is there to support teams in Cosmos. It's very hard for people in Cosmos or outside of Cosmos to know who to talk to. There's 100 chains. You're not really sure who's building what, so we try to guide them through that with partnerships, fundraising, all that stuff. At the same time, we do a lot of like outbound BD where we try to approach layer ones, we try to approach enterprises, try to make them understand the benefits of IBC, but also the Cosmos SDK and Tendermint. How did I get into IBC and why? That's a good question. I was actually a trader before that. And then I got sick of it, like most people probably should. And I was like, well, this stuff is really interesting, and I kind of want to use my brain. And then I just found out about Interchain. The IBC thing was very compelling. I think it's a very elegant solution. And that's when I joined ICF at the time.
Yeah, awesome. I also came from financial services originally and then decided to move in something way less soul-sucking.
Word. So
I'll start off with two direct questions, and I'll open it up. So, Susannah, I'll start with you. During your panel at ETH Denver, you mentioned that Ethereum is, in nature, bottlenecked for interoperability because the incentives are really to build rollups, and they're not necessarily to build a way in which they communicate to each other. So I'm curious, from your vantage, what you think the biggest hurdle is that is needed to get IBC adoption outside of just the Cosmos?
Well, I think there's obviously like the technical challenges, but I think a lot of it is beyond the technical stuff. It's actually more like the social and business elements of like, there's a lot of tribalism to some extent, and people have their like blockchain and domain of like, you know, they might identify with, I'm like this kind of person, I use Ethereum, I do all that stuff. And I think there's a bit of like fear of like, if you then open up your kind of domain to another blockchain or something, you know, what's going to happen? It's a bit of an unknown. Are people going to leave? Are people going to join? So I think that's often a bit of a like social challenge rather than anything technical. I think long term, there's just like to me, it's inconceivable that there's going to be like one blockchain which is going to just, you know, have the predominant market share. I just think there's like a limit to how far these systems can scale. And the only way to genuinely scale these systems is to have some way to interoperate with multiple systems that can have like multiple domains. So yeah, I would say I think it's a lot of the other challenges beyond technology, basically.
Yeah, fair enough. Multiple different warehouses that have different standards. And then Noam, on your side, you were on a podcast, a Friends Validator, and you were talking about the Cosmos Hub and where Cosmos Hub could have gone and advancements that it could have made. And I'm curious from your standard, from your perspective, when thinking about moving. You have different projects like Polymer, you have Union, you have Landslide, all these different projects that are trying to bring IBC outside of the Cosmos ecosystem. What do you see as the biggest thing that these projects should be keeping in mind?
Yeah, okay, there's a lot to that question. So first of all, in terms of maybe riffing a little bit on what Susannah was saying, like the difference between the technical and sort of the business case. Like the technical thing, just purely based on our conversations that we've had with layer ones and just anyone about IBC, it's that they're saying like, okay, the technical cost of implementation is too high for the benefit, which is generally the business case. And the business case, I think we're not doing a great job of marketing that. That's one way. I think in many cases, the narrative around the business case, we need to work on that. The technical side, we need to make it easier, and IBC Lite is an interesting sort of new idea that people are working on, and I think that's a great path forward. What really is fascinating here is that if you take a step back and you zoom out and you see that the Interchain Foundation is a nonprofit organization, and we really don't have a token nor really any incentive for things to work quickly. We just want things to work right. We're essentially a lot of engineers and researchers that want to get the perfect protocol that is like security, top-notch security, top-notch features. I think that makes a ton of sense. What's great though is that now we're having these secondary market, the unions, the polymers, that are essentially they're building products that are for profit. And what's nice about that is that they have very simple KPIs, which is if we are broke, then we are done. So they need to make sure things work and that revenue comes in, or at least that the fundraising comes in, which I think is a very healthy motivator for driving IBC growth. Now, what we could do better, specifically on the IBC side, on the ICF side, is I think we need to do better in terms of grant provision for these kinds of organizations. I think investing in those organizations can be very helpful. I think meaningful partnerships between the ICF and between those organizations can be very helpful so that we can actually drive that adoption a little faster. In terms of my advice for those organizations, like Union and Polymer and whatnot, I mean, like, I don't know, it's a tough one. I would say just give it a try, right? Like, I don't know, like with Polymer, they're taking a bet on OP Stack, right? And you guys are doing that, and that's a super interesting bet. I hope it pays out. I think we just all need to work together a little bit more to make sure you guys have what you need to be successful. That means like tighter collaboration between our business development team and your team, for example, maybe even a tighter feedback loop between the product and the people who are actually using it, like Polymer and Union. But yeah, maybe it's more of an open discussion than a specific type of advice. Yeah.
No, it makes sense. And and I guess, Susannah, I'll start with you. What innovations or measures would you really like to see come out of IBC?
So I guess like beyond the like social and business challenges of encouraging people to use the technology, I do think it is a bit too complicated right now for people to just pick it up and run with it, and that is a bit of a turn off for people who can't just like take an implementation out the box and use it. So it's like, basically, right now, it's great if you're a Cosmos chain and you can use IBC Go out the box. It's like less bad, but still not ideal if you can use IBC RS. There's still a lot of stuff that you need to be doing there as well. And then, IBC Solidity as well is also not in a finished state. So you kind of have these options available to you. If you can't use them or you have to use basically something other than IBC Go, it's already like a massive barrier. So I think making it simpler for someone to just like implement IBC themselves is more in line with kind of the open source ethos of the project, because the project isn't like it's quite distinct from a bridge in that we don't have a core driver of like profit back to the protocol. Like the protocol doesn't take any value extraction. It's more like a vision for these chains to be able to interoperate with each other in a trust minimized way using like client-based interoperability. But if the technological challenge to have that is too high, then you're not going to reach that utopia. So I think, yeah, you mentioned briefly some of the work we're doing on this IBC Lite concept. We have a bit of a North Star metric that any team could take like the spec for IBC Lite and then implement like a working proof of concept in a hackathon, then it would become a lot more realistic that IBC would actually be a genuine interoperability standard, not just something that like we love within the Cosmos ecosystem. So yeah, that's something I'm excited about.
Makes sense. And what about yourself?
Fully agree. I mean, like Susannah, I mean, we work together very often, so we're going to be mostly aligned on everything. Yeah, no, but technical complexity needs to be reduced. I mean, our feature set is superior to any other bridging protocol already, right? So I think it makes sense to stop worrying about that. Maybe there are a few more things that need to get out there, but I think mostly we have the feature set's mostly complete. So stripping things down makes a ton of sense. I think at the same time, you know, having developer, or rather, listening to specific user needs and maybe allocating some developer resources to build specifically for them might be a smart idea. I'm not sure. I think that's something we need to explore. Maybe there are certain chains that say, hey, you know, we really want to implement IBC, but you know, we just can't, or we don't want to, or the cost is too high. It might make sense for the ICF to say, hey, you know what? We're going to put out maybe a grant, or we're going to put some developers onto this project to actually like make that solution possible. Because I think once we land you know, one big chain essentially that says like, hey, we're going to integrate this on a deep protocol level, we can really start pushing for a narrative like, hey, this is possible. It's not just a Cosmos thing. And the question is like, who's responsible for this? And I personally believe that, you know, ICF could do more to put resource into that. Not necessarily saying the IBC team should do this, obviously. You guys are super busy. But just to figure out like, how are we going to address this problem? Because that is an obstacle. And so, yeah, again, it's not really a technical thing we need to be doing, but or a feature that needs to be changed, but yeah.
But maybe like one other like contextual thing to add is, if you look at how IBC is used today, it's like over 90%, closer to 100% than 90%, like 95+% of the applications used with IBC are transfer based. So people, like the real thing that has product market fit is token transfer. As to whether we just haven't done other applications well enough to make them become more dominant in the use of IBC, you know, maybe that could be one hypothesis, but we think that the real, like, right now in blockchain, the real product market fit is in moving tokens around. And right now, like, IBC does a hell of a lot more than that. And like the core kind of value that people want with using IBC is fundamentally tokens. So then, you know, maybe it's a little bit over-engineered. But also we do have improvements to Interchain accounts, which is more like the flagship, like general message passing, control an account on another blockchain feature to like make it a hell of a lot easier to use, because right now it's way too cumbersome, and maybe that's why people aren't using it. But yeah, I do think at least the Pareto law is going to be true. At least 80% of the value is probably going to be in tokens, and, you know, maybe 20% the other features. So we should bear that in mind.
So I fully agree with that. And it's actually kind of interesting that we have all these features. And I think one thing we could do and we could do better is, like, so we did a little exercise in our team where essentially we have like a huge target list of protocols that we want to reach out to about IBC, SDK, and whatnot. And what we do then is we look at this protocol and we do a little thought experiment, like what value does IBC bring for them, for example? What value is the feature set going to bring them? So specifically we think about things like interchain accounts, cross-chain queries, contract calls on other chains, things that, or acknowledgements, things that you can't do with most of the bridging protocols. It was actually very hard for us to think of these use cases. And I think we should maybe, this is a workshop we could do, you know, think about that a little bit more, because I think once we start mapping out what those features can really bring up, what it enables, because I think there are things that it would enable that other bridging tools don't do. Once we map those out, we make those business cases clear and we present them as such, maybe there's a pitch deck, whatever, I think then that business case for IBC becomes a lot more apparent, but also it becomes a lot more clear for you guys to know what to focus on, what really is maybe like an opportunity. But I think that's just a bunch of work that we still need to do, and we'll get there.
I would even say that that problem of getting outside of just DeFi is a meta Web3 problem. It's not just IBC specific.
I mean, there's a bunch of stuff also when you look at the enterprise world where now, you know, there's a huge change in sort of like the payment sector, where they're going towards ISO 20022, which is the payment standard essentially. Banks are moving towards that. I think the central bank, I know a lot of people don't like CBDCs, especially in the crypto-heavy people. I get that, but there is a lot of space there for adoption, and I think it might make sense for us to think about, hey, is IBC ISO 20022 compliant? And if so, and if not, could we do it? Is it easy? And if it is already, should we just market it as such? And there's a lot of opportunities there. I think they're just low-hanging fruit, to be honest.
And I think maybe to add on that is that, if we do see more like enterprise level existing financial infrastructure adoption of blockchain technology generally, I can't imagine they would want to use like someone else's blockchain. They're going to want to have that level of control, but at the same time, they're not going to want to live in isolation from, hey, HSBC, I want to talk to Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, whatever, or like, even now it's like, okay, we have, the Great British Pound and we have the Euro, like that's just so that you can have control over your monetary policy. So yeah, I really think people are going to have their own infrastructure, but they're going to need to communicate with other providers and things like this. So I think there IBC could be playing a really important role, because like early conversations, like they don't want to have to trust someone else. They want to be able to verify things on their own and move capital between them based on their own infrastructure and such. So yeah, I think.
And a lot of those problems are also, how do we navigate external corruption to actually do things better? But anyway, I also want to be conscious of everyone that also wants to network. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Susannah. Thank you, Noam. And yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.